poetry can help cure the soul. Berenice has witnessed how poetry becomes a bridge to bringing people together of opposing worlds.
To teach poetry, you must first understand the development of the art form. You must know the many ranges and categories it falls into, the poets emulated by amateurs such as myself. And you must understand that there is a literary technique behind every literary technique. To teach poetry, you must acknowledge yourself as a poet. Teaching poetry to me is part of life. It will never be a short-lived activity. It will be one of grandeur and exhilaration, with such euphoria that it simply cannot compare to learning from the great poets themselves. Now, I am not dismissing or denouncing the works of the great poets. All I'm merely saying is that when I teach my version of poetry, life comes out of me, and it is only the beginning. The hardest part about teaching poetry is teaching it to those who cannot even spell their own name or begin to understand that there is something called poetry. But I understand them. Poetry is not an art form that you can simply begin to comprehend. It takes time. It's an enigmatic subject of which many cannot relate to. I can clearly recall my first day. I wanted to shower them with knowledge concerning Tupac Shakur and Shakespeare. Did they understand? Did they know that Tupac was only a hip and modern version of Shakespeare? He saw himself as a rose growing from the concrete, while Shakespeare saw himself through his 154 sonnets written during the 17th century. Both were enthused geniuses who saw the true worth of poetry. It was medicinal to them. Perhaps a dose of poetry can cure the soul, and this to me is true. When I write, I do it only to understand myself. I am estranged. I am trying to decode the layers of guilt, shame, hurt, love, bitterness, and most importantly, creativity. My creativity lies in my internal nuance that foreshadows my true self. That is why most people lack some form of style in their writing. They try too hard. I've tried teaching this to the youth group that I spend Mondays and Wednesdays with through my nonprofit Poetic Music, dedicated to teaching at-risk and urban youth through their use of classical and contemporary poetry. I teach them that when we write, we are seeking knowledge to gain a mutual understanding of ourselves. It will take time for them to comprehend such a complex topic, but for now they just divulge themselves in trying to understand the simplicities of writing. The basics are not so hard for them to grasp. I find them at times asking me if poetry should rhyme. If that were the case, then many literary geniuses would be dismissed as not having been poets at all. Poetry should flow from our souls and mark us like a pen. I tell my kids that poetry has no definite shape. It requires only determination and the willingness to go beyond the consciousness and to seek our subconscious. It is given to us through an unknown force that we do not know and need not understand. Recalling back to my first day, I thought my words would fly over these kids' heads and that they wouldn't like me or my work or what I had to bring to the table. To my surprise, they embraced it. Now, mind you, these kids are homeless. They roam the inner city streets of Miami with no home to live in and with no support from family or friends. My biggest fear was that my mind wouldn't be able to comprehend theirs. We come from two different worlds, but I understood them. There are days when I sit in my bedroom with the doors closed in silence and imagine the pain and fear of others. I feel it. I feel them. That is why I write. I write not for myself as most people do, but to understand the pain and fear of others. Poetry has given me that opportunity, and as one of my kids have told me, I believe that poetry can help me. I believe that what you're doing is good. Their writing weren't extraneous concoctions written just to write. They were revealing their truth. I was able to shed a barrier and create a portal in which I could enter. Writing provokes the soul to open up. When I write, I am not aware of the words that are being transcribed onto the paper. I am only aware of the fact that I am writing. I don't know what, but it is something. I wish that all of humankind would take the time to sit down and just write. Write for the sake of writing. Write because you're hot and bothered by the recent debate on politics, global education, and healthcare. Write not for yourself, but write for others. Write for the children in Haiti. Martin Luther King had a dream for this world, and I now have a dream for this world. If we could all just take the time to sit down and just write, to find our inner selves, we would be able to combat global issues such as HIV/AIDS, violence, illiteracy, gender inequality, Because as said previously, behind all the words that we are writing, we are discovering something much bigger than who we are. We are esoteric. Only a few will ever understand us. But why live in a world as such when we have poetry to guide us? Poetry is power, as it is to life. Thank you.